Afro Samurai, son of Rokutaro, the #1 before him. My favorite anti-hero slash great character. One of, if not the most iconic black anime characters. A goated ass character I've talked about multiple times on this channel. Showed my love for him, talked about who he is, talked about how powerful he is in power scaling, and showed nothing but love and great case of matter of fanboy instinct with this man because of him holding a great inspiration of my Afro and just a delightful and interesting character. But when it comes down to the case of matter of this video, is a new case of matter of video form of video and mix at the same time series with me being inspired by a bunch of different other kinds of creators that put characters in fiction or in general on trial for their crimes and unravel them by the U.S. general form government justice system considerably and take consideration everything that this character has done and putting them on a reasonable case matter trial and giving true justice, sensible, sufficient, precise, and concrete analyzation to this character and pretty much just taking in everything that he's done to a conclusion of true merits. I hope you guys will enjoy this new case matter series. I have a lot more coming with this. I appreciate the wait for it. All the case matter of busting that I'm possibly going to be putting out in this time or not. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Let's go and get it in. Afro Samurai starts off with his father, Rokutaro, the #1, wielder of the #1 headband, the headband that pretty much signifies a man being God, sitting at the top of the Afro Samurai universe. He became the #1 for whatever form of reason, but when he had Afro years ago, considerably with Afro looking like a little beady, big ass head boy with a growing Afro, he's about like 6, 7, right? Maybe. So he left his mother most likely in the case to go ahead and raise Afro, but alone with him still wielding the #1, with his ideal for the world being pretty much a person who wields godlike powers to try to hide it, to pretty much conserve and disperse a great pool of violence that comes in the mix of stuff, as violence will come out in ways that are not tied to one person and bring out a cycle. But that gets interrupted by justice. This bounty hunter, the gunslinger looking ass nigga who looks like a whole ass mutant that met Rokutaro before and had some form of friendly relationship, and he disagreed on the ideal for why a person would wield the #1 or use the headbands in general. Justice viewed that Rokutaro having so much power and not using it to the fullest and not using it to run a great spores of violence in different form was disrespecting the whole ideal of being #1, was disrespecting the whole account of being #1 for the calling of power. A spores of violence was being said pretty much is the count that he wants to make a cycle of violence all come back to one person and in full make a world that's full of thrall and violence but on a simple path instead of being sporadic. No just countless course of callousness and violence and destruction, but all paved through a line of his making. Obviously, these two disagree, and they would come to blows. They would lock horns in combat on some Star Sword Radon First Millennia shit, and they would go ahead and cut each other almost damn near. But in the mix of Rokutaro going in for the killing blow, Justice would kill him in a splitting edge move with a third arm of his decapitating him. And so this would wreak the case of matter of a whole new saga for Afro, as he saw someone that he loved be killed in front of him, and Justice took everything that he loved just in a moment, taking off the headband off of Afro's father's dead head and placing the headband of the #1 across his forehead on his hat, becoming God in this world. And then Afro will go across his path line of being a kid that goes wrecked, got the #2 stolen from him, and then we'll come across Gino, who looks like he's possibly like 14 to 15 at this point, and his little sister Usuru, who looks to be possibly 4 to 5, and Afro again maybe 6, 7 in the regard, like about like 2 or 3 years older than her, and it kind of matter of the time depending on the case how you perceive him, as the age of these characters are never definedly said, but you know, it goes with the territory. But besides considerably his origin to come into play here, the case of matter for his crime showcase in the mix of him becoming the #2 and the after effect thing is the case of the massacre that happened, showing off him as a #2. Again, as a #2 in comparison to the #1 is a person wielding the power to go and face the #1 and his rightful matter of wielder to take on the case of #1, a person trying to ascend to become God. As the #2, He wreaks out violence and brings on none but a bigger spores of violence beyond comprehension. Like the case of matter of the No.1 justice, with wanting to have that be a case. But instead of just wanting to make a force of violence and or spores of violence, he wants to go ahead and make a means of vengeance as the No.2, as obviously he wants to kill justice for the death of his father. But as the No.2, he brings countless case of matter of ceaseless violence because people want to wield a power to come back to a person. So with this being said, Afro as the No.2 is making the legacy of violence come back in full throttle back to justice as justice of want. As him as the No.1, he waits out for the ceaseless violence that comes. Again, the spores of violence is what he wants. He wants to make spores of it because of that. With that being said, not just to repeat. So in this sense, self-defense is reasonable because of this, because of the fact that, again, these motherfuckers are coming to kill Afro out of the senseless need to gain power. So in the massacre, this counts as self-defense. Then, murder of the second massacre, when it comes down to him killing the dudes that come after him after killing their buddy, which counts as murder at first hand, that is something to take into account with this. So both of them count in a sense of murder, even if the second one technically is second offense. But with him killing their friend, even though Afro is still a child, being like 6 to 7 at this point, maybe even 8 depending on the year time, this still will be reasonably a matter of murder, because considerably they will be right in a matter of subduing him, even if he's a child and it being fucked up. And so, yeah, murder on multiple different accounts. And so this would get him a case of matter of 20 years plus a fine of $25,000, and this will keep stacking over time. Okay. Then when he gets older and Afro's like 14 to 15, even 16 years old, you know, he's a teenager, he kills his sword master, aka his teacher to father like figure, who knew his father Rokutaro before he became the No.1 headband, and possibly either taught him or they both were students of a master similar to them. So within killing him, he wants to become No.2 to get vengeance and go on a line of violence, spores of crazy means for the case of matter of killing justice. So yeah, murder as well. Then self-defense against the case of matter of goons and the rest of 77 plus Afro.But, as any person that comes after Afro just because of the No.2 is a person trying to kill him in the case of matter of the second degree murder, and Afro has not been trying to go ahead and kill them beforehand. So any person that he allegedly kills, beats, or assaults within this count as that, and one of them considerably is not even technically a person, is an android, aka a robot, in the case of Afro.But. So yeah, so all of that counts in the record of self-defense and or a case of person trying to go and kill him before, as every other point in time with Afro killing a person in their form would be the second degree to first degree as premeditated, or even considerably accident within how he fights them, as he has wooden weapons. So it's mixed if he was trying to go ahead and kill them by default with these stuff, or he just goes about it because Afro's an abnormal nigga and obviously he's built different to go and kill. But next, with Gino, aka Kuma, is self-defense, and Afro wasn't trying to go ahead and fight him super at first, was on the defensive. He was trying to move around him, he was trying to run around him, he wasn't trying to kill his old friend. And Afro does regret what he did, but doesn't regret it to the fullest, to the point where he won't kill him. He has to let that shit go, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the death of justice, the gunslinger that took away everything in front of him. So he kills him, self-defense. Now with the case of murder is the No.1 justice, as even though he killed his father in front of him, and again, justice whole philosophy came true with this man Afro running a multi-spree of violence, and the multi-sporings of violence came into play. The sporing of this shit came into play fully by him even rolling up to him and seeing the countless bodies around him. As the whole thing with justice, without going to a whole nother lore display, is the fact that when he comes to kill him, This man Justice has been here for eons, it seems like, if we're talking about the anime, and he pretty much has Spike killed every other person of a world of headbands, as there's a multi-number of headbands. We don't know how many, it doesn't matter, it's pretty relevant. So when he goes about fighting him, he pretty much waited for every matter person to come to him and spiked them with possibly a native gift or a gift grace by having a number one. As this is a thing I forgot to go mention on the way back, we're talking about who's Afro and how powerful he is, and nerd talks of Afro. But considerably, all the headbands give a person some advanced or enhanced capability with what they already have. Like, so Afro's already not a normal dude. He's arguably already superhuman, right? He does creative wild shit for being an anime character and being that nigga, but he has like arguably enhanced speed, case of hypothetically better rejuvenation and recuperation, arguably advanced strength. You know, as a number two, he's always being a cracked individual beyond compare, what is being said, and every number two is able to stretch to new bounds of like super soldier level extent beyond the general criteria of an anime superhuman dude. The number one in this case gets a immortalization perk, aka being age-wise immortal, as in the case of the anime it seems like this, because I don't think this is how it works in the manga, because obviously in the manga Justice dies of old age, possibly he already had something that couldn't before, because it's kind of seen with his mainly headcanon that he already has something going on with him, as he has a mutation looking at skin disease. So maybe you are immortal by age, but what you already have to kill you, that already exists, right? Like, that cannot be dispersed from your being. That will kill you because that's an external thing that is not eternal, considerably, depending on how you perceive that. But regardless, he is able to regenerate. He has a healing factor, can squelch his fucking limbs into the ground to make spikes, and he spiked every other wielder of the headband, like I already said. He was waiting for the number two, aka Afro, gave him the headband for a reason. He already knew what to do. And in the fight, it's a cool fight, he tries to kill him the same way he killed his father Rokutaro, by not taking out a fucking knife, a long dagger, sleek case of blade, no, a whole ass no dachi looking ass katana, and starts splitting in between his hair because of his afro length and cartoon logic, mixed with the same time the case of having the curl comb head thing that Usuru aka Okiku had. I don't know what it is, but you know some girls having that curl form ponytail stretch thing. Some girls have that, and the hair thing coming with the comb that some girls even with a ponytail, depending on how long it is. I don't know what that's called, but that helped him, and that spike between it, and then Afro was able to cut off that limb or get around it, with this being said. But then when he tried spiking him in his afro, he was able to split off from it because his afro's so long it pretty much just teared a part of it off, and he stayed there. That probably put back his hairline, I'm not gonna lie, but it is what it is. He stayed strong, and that motherfucker Afro, you know, he full went about killing him by decapitating him beforehand, but at the same time splitting every part of his body so he can not regenerate. Nigga turned that ash back from the case of the chop suiness of the entire cutting. So, in conclusion, besides the whole explanation of the whole fight, this motherfucker Afro murdered him, turned nigga to ash, full Thanos style, and after that would take the number one, and at the same time, even with the murder being of reasonable stand, still counts as murder. Then after that, the murder of Shingiraku, or how the fuck you say his name, dude in Afro Samurai Resurrection, aka dude that's the father of Kotaro, he killed him for feasible means of reasonable dueling in hand-to-hand combat, I guess you could say, as both of them consented to the case of matter of the fight, but he still cheated in this technical sense of grabbing another dude to set up the killing blow, and for feeble reasons, as this nigga really did kill him over a piece of cloth, no matter the case of matter of the power or the grace of being able to step to the number one again and rightfully earn something that meant a lot to his father to die over. Still feeble form reasons, and also the murder of the DJ with, even though Shikutaru killed him, or how the fuck you say his name, this man Afro did set up his death. So in Calamity, he did set up the killing of both, especially because he stabs through him, and considerably he wasn't dead instantly. by the blade hit, even though he did split him so hard. This man was gushing beyond proportion. I mean, y'all see the fucking scenery and the screenshots. But yeah, so both count of death with this being said. And then every other time he fights an Afro Samurai Resurrection is self-defense, or like beforehand with saving. In the case of Kutaru, he did it out of reasonable justice stand and not bad with this being said. And finally, in conclusion, within the case of the movie, you know, he took out his father. That Ari was pretty much trying to go ahead and kill him. That was just reanimated Android-esque version of him. And then finally, we have the death of Kotaro that stands as a case of self-defense within a quote of there being more than one movie. But I have researched long and hard, and the only case matter of things from a animation stand with Afro that showcase more of the stuff besides the manga, from what I've seen, not the game, because the case of the Afro Samurai game sequel, Kuma's Revenge, did not come into play, and it doesn't even show the greatest shit, especially because the game moves different from the anime and the manga considerably, but takes more accuracy from the manga, right? And this shit, there's no showcasing of that shit. It's only insinuation that he would move the same way that he did his Justice, as he's done the same thing that Justice did, and no matter of him having arguably greater reason to kill Justice than whoever want to go ahead and kill him, right, which is a big part for why he does what he does, he still did bad. So with that being said, that's a great shine for why he's bad, because in this sense, him killing Shugoku Kuno, or how the fuck you say his name, that man did nothing to him, same considerable way like Rokutaro, regardless of disagreement and the fact that the headband means more to Afro than every person. It is a very selfish and callous reason, and Afro spent his whole life trying to get up to justice. And with this being said, splitting edge, cutting the span, chop suey, cutting all the back end from the case of matter of equal finish, like his father, within a matter of disrespect, and then having this nigga turn to ash, it lines in the same field, like, what the fuck, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, in conclusion, with all the crimes that Afro Samurai has committed, this man gets a total of $125,000 fine and 100 years in prison. But with this new case of matter series of mine, as being Judge Amon here, I guess you could say, obviously I am going to be judging them by a reasonable case of law, and this stuff would end out in their stuff. But I do want to give a presumption, a possible way to go ahead and help these people, or give them a greater form of punishment if the full deserve, if in the fact they do not have any way of coming back from this. And Afro, as being my favorite anti-hero to great character, I do definitely think deserves the case of his punishment, but in the case that he would go ahead and learn possibly different but still serve a punishment, I do want to have in play for the case of this man dying from these years or something, to maybe possibly find a better path beyond. So with the $125 fine needing to be paid, and same time 100 years, he would spend all this time within these years in the case of the God of War Ragnarok version of Valhalla, take consideration everything he's done, maybe repent for his sins, maybe take on justice, maybe for justice to explain the greater form of the philosophy of the #1 to the #2 headband within the case of the afterlife, and realize that just splitting this man up from the case of back end of his fucking third arm, right, doesn't just take away the fact that he has splintered multi-case of matter of people's lives in half, just like how he did the case of a man Justice, the same, regardless of it being good or bad, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's it when it comes down to this video, guys. I hope you guys will enjoy the rest of the Case Matter content I have planned in mind. This is a unique Case Matter video of mine that I wanted to go ahead and make for a minute. I know it's been minutes to upload in comparison to the Case Matter video. On the other hand, of me taking in things and trying to go ahead and do the best I can with the matter of my livelihood right now, as a man been really thinking about stuff and trying to get his mental health right, you know what I'm saying? I hope you guys, again, will enjoy everybody's stuff. I love y'all. Peace out, man.